Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. Today guys, I'll be checking out this interesting video from Thomas Sowell, and it's titled How Italian Migration Transformed Australia for the Better. You guys, I'm super excited for this. If you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please consider subscribing. Give this video a massive thumbs up, comment, share, and all that good stuff. And without much ado, let's see what this video is all about.
Although the land area of Australia is comparable in size to that of the continental United States, its population is smaller than that of California. Most Australians live on the coastal fringes of the island continent, leaving the geographically and climatically inhospitable interior largely uninhabited. In sparsely populated Australia, various ethnic groups became socially significant, even though their numbers would be small enough for them to pass virtually unnoticed in the United States. Italian immigration to Australia has never been on a scale comparable to the immigration from Italy to Western Europe or to North or South America. Yet Italians have been both a noticeable presence and a notable presence in Australia. Most immigration from Italy to Australia has occurred since the early 1920s, when American immigration restrictions sent Italians in search of other destinations. Isolated individuals of Italian ancestry lived in Australia from the beginning of its history, having arrived there on the first ships of convicts transported from Britain and on the first ships of resettlers as well. Yet, as late as 1891, there were fewer than 4,000 Italian-born individuals in Australia, and they were outnumbered by Danes, Chinese, and German immigrants, and vastly outnumbered by British-born immigrants. Most of these Italians were from the northern provinces of Italy, and northerners maintained a slight majority among Italian immigrants in Australia as late as 1947. The early Italian immigrants had patterns characteristic of Italians in other countries. They were noted for their hard work, their docility and temperance, and for saving steadily by a simple and even primitive mode of life.
Wow.
Some Australians said that the Italians could live on the smell of an oil rag. For all these traits, they were preferred as workers by some employers, and were often disliked by Australian workers. Many Italian immigrants were unskilled laborers, but those with occupational specialties were often miners, fishermen, fruit and vegetable vendors, and restaurant owners. Children were sometimes used as street musicians, as in other countries. In some places, Italian immigrants took over land considered unproductive by unsuccessful Australian farmers and made it successful by hard work. Even in times of unemployment, Italians seldom accepted charity, public or private. As elsewhere, people from particular parts of Italy tended to settle together, and northern and southern Italians were antagonistic to one another. Social life tended to be limited to the family circle or to 2 or 3 families. There was little sense of an Italian community as such, though Italians lived separately from Australians. Neither religion nor education played a major role in their lives, and politics aroused little interest. Italians established no schools or churches of their own, and very few newspapers. Not only were most of the Italians who arrived in the last quarter of the 19th century from northern Italy, nearly half came from just one province in northern Italy, and there were highly localized origins within that province as well. Altogether, nearly 90% of the Italian immigrants to Australia during that era came from an area containing only 10% of Italy's population. Yet immigration to Australia was often heavy from the isolated places where it originated. By 1939, there were more people from some Italian villages living in Australia than remained back in Italy. The first major increase of Italian immigration into Australia, called a flood by the standards of the times, began in the 1920s. More than 7,800 arrived in the peak year of 1927, in a country with a total Italian immigrant population of only 4,500 as late as 1921. Altogether, between 1921 and 1930, nearly 24,000 Italian immigrants entered Australia.
Wow, you guys, this is another interesting historical narration from Thomas Sowell, and I'm learning a thing or two from this particular video. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. I'm really finding it very interesting, and like I said in my previous video, I love the way Thomas Sowell captures the most important point in a particular topic and just highlight it, making it very, very easy for one to understand. Let me know what you guys think about this particular one, and let's continue watching, you guys.
But subsequent immigration from Italy was sharply reduced by the Great Depression and then by World War II. Although Italians in Australia showed little interest in politics, the politics of Italy, Mussolini's fascism, reached out to touch them, both directly and indirectly. The Italian government, through its representatives in Australia, promoted pro-fascist organizations, which tapped an emotional attachment to Italy and Italian culture, even among immigrants not particularly susceptible to political ideology in general, or to fascism in particular. The Second World War also had its impact on Italians in Australia, where 3,650 were interned out of a population of 70,000. Moreover, those Italians remaining outside the internment camps still lived under various restrictions as enemy aliens. The post-World War II era saw immigration from Italy to Australia resume and reach a scale never seen before. While fewer than 1,000 Italians immigrated to Australia from 1945 to 1948, the number shot up to nearly 6,000 the following year and climbed to a peak of more than 30,000 per year in the middle of the 1950s, before beginning an uneven decline that continued until fewer than 10,000 per year were arriving in the early 1970s.
Wow.
Altogether, approximately 374,000 people immigrated from Italy to Australia from 1945 to 1972, making Italians by far the largest non-British ethnic group in the country, and 4% of Australia's total population. Even allowing for substantial return migration, this large influx of immigrants significantly altered the composition of the Italian population in Australia. By 1978, there were 595,000 people who were either first or second generation Italians living in the country. Nearly half, approximately 286,000 people, had been born in Italy. The immigrant families may in fact have included a majority of all Italians in the country, for their children born on Australian soil were counted as part of the second generation, though still living in immigrant homes. Radically different age distributions between first-generation and second-generation Italians reinforce this inference. 2/3 of the Italian-born population in Australia was between 25 and 54 years of age, while more than 4/5 of second-generation Italians were less than 20 years old. Because of the relative recency of substantial Italian immigration, the adult second generation, plus these immigrant families together, constituted an estimated 90% of all Italians in Australia, who in total would exceed 650,000 by this reckoning. However, counting all individuals with any trace of Italian ancestry, there might be close to 1 million Australians of Italian descent. Over the years, the Italian population in Australia has changed in many ways. Whereas the earlier Italian immigrants were predominantly rural, the post-war immigrants have been predominantly urban. The regional origins of Italian immigrants have also changed over the years, from northern to southern Italy. From the late 19th century until early in World War II, most Italian immigrants to Australia came from northern Italy. By 1976, however, the most common regional origins of Italian-born immigrants in Australia were southern, with Sicily and Calabria alone accounting for about 1/3 of the total immigration from Italy. As elsewhere, there was little social mixing of northern and southern Italians in Australia, though northern Italians manned a social welfare agency operating among southern Italians. Marriage patterns have clearly shown the social separation. For the entire period from 1920 to 1954, the great majority of southern Italian males in Australia were married to southern Italian females, whether they were married in Italy or in Australia. Normal family life was easier to establish and maintain for the post-war immigrants from Italy to Australia than it was for their predecessors in an earlier era. A very unbalanced ratio between men and women immigrants, a very low rate of intermarriage with Australians, and the fact that
Wow, you guys, this is a very interesting one, and I'm enjoying every minute of this video. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and let's wrap this video up, you guys.
That many married men left their wives behind in Italy all made it difficult for the early immigrants to establish families in Australia. In 1871, there were nearly 14 times as many males as females among the 860 Italians in Australia. As late as 1901, the ratio was more than 6 to 1. As of 1921, 1/2 of all Italian-born men in Australia were married, but 1/4 of these married men had families in Italy. Moreover, the preponderance of males continued for years. However, a greater tendency of males than of females to return to Italy mitigated the sex imbalance, which fell to 2 to 1 by 1947. After the massive post-war immigration, the ratio of males to females among those born in Italy was only 1.2 to 1. As with other groups in other countries, this sex-balanced immigration was a harbinger of permanent settlement. Rates of naturalization and of learning the English language were both much higher among the post-war Italian immigrants than among those of earlier times. Along with more signs of assimilation, the new immigrants also showed some persistent Italian patterns common in other countries. For example, babies born out of wedlock remained very rare among Italians in Australia, 1 out of every 148 births to women born in Italy, in a community noted for an absence of sex education. Italian school children have tended to have poor scholastic performances and to drop out of school earlier than Australian children in general, a pattern long ago observed among Italian immigrants in other countries. Another pattern common to Italian immigrants was a below-average crime rate. In religious practices as well, the pattern among Italian immigrants to Australia has been very similar to that observed in other countries. They have been overwhelmingly Catholic and overwhelmingly non-participants in the church. Among the more recent Italian immigrants to Australia, as among the earlier, the desire to work and get ahead has been strong. They have preferred jobs that offered frequent opportunities for working overtime. The desire for home ownership has been high among Italians in Australia, as in other countries. Home ownership has in fact been more common among Italians than among Australians in general. More than 4/5 of Sicilian immigrants have become homeowners, though this often involved a real struggle to make the down payment. Italians in Australia have been by no means an affluent group, however, though they have risen from their early poverty. As of 1933, the average Italian male in Australia earned 87% of what Australian males in general earned, and by 1976, 97%. While this represented considerable progress for a group relatively recently integrated, their income level could not explain the high home ownership level of Italians in Australia. As in other countries, Italian immigrants in Australia have had relatively low levels of education and have been statistically underrepresented in professional and technical occupations. Although there were more than twice as many Italian-born males as German-born males in Australia in the early 1980s, there were more than twice as many German-born males as Italian-born males in professional and technical occupations. Nevertheless, Italians have apparently been considered desirable workers in the occupations in which they worked, for even in a period of sharp unemployment in the economy as a whole in 1972, their unemployment rates were not substantially different from those of native-born Australians. Moreover, Italians were self-employed as tradesmen to a greater extent than the Australian population as a whole. Along with these signs of persistent Italian patterns have been signs of assimilation to a new society, at least in such outward forms as language, citizenship, and occupational mobility. More than 90% of the Italians under the age of 15 were born in Australia. But, even among the Italian-born population, by 1976, 4/5 spoke English, even if not exclusively, and a majority were citizens of Australia. Italians from northern Italy more readily adopted some Australian child-rearing practices, but many Sicilians adjusted in various ways as well. Education became increasingly valued by Italians in Australia, but the prerequisites for it may not have been fully understood, or not yet present. Occupationally, there were significant changes over the years as well, with Italians no longer being overrepresented among fishermen in Australia, for example. Whereas the early Italian immigrants were primarily laborers, by 1947 more were employers or self-employed than were employees. By the late 1970s, less than 1/6 were unskilled laborers. Italians did not simply melt into the general population, however. There were still distinctively Italian neighborhoods, though many Italians lived outside such neighborhoods. Perhaps most significant, intermarriage remained the exception rather than the rule among men and women born in Italy.
Wow, you guys, that was such an interesting one from Thomas Sowell. I really enjoyed every minute of this video. Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comment section down below. This is very, very interesting. And listening to Thomas Sowell, you just have to learn a thing or two that you didn't know about when it comes to the history of a particular place. Let me know your thoughts on this video. I really enjoyed reacting to Thomas Sowell, and I believe you guys also enjoyed watching. If you guys enjoyed watching, give this video a massive thumbs up, comment, share, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.